Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, and as always, I am always excited to go across the Atlantic and talk to our first guest. Welcome back to the show again, John Towler. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Steve. Thanks for inviting me back.
Oh, definitely. And I'm really excited today. We're going to kind of talk about your cruise to the Mediterranean and our cruise that we just took the last in June. Well, you were in May and we were in June this year. And we're going to kind of mix and match some notes. But before we jump into it, I'll let you do it. Why don't you remind our listeners how we met, John?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Steve. So we met, our two families met on a Disney cruise on the Magic to Norway in May of 2016. And I guess regular listeners will know that we've made a few shows together now. I'm from the UK, as you said, across the Atlantic. I'm married to Caroline, and we have two boys who are now aged 12 and 9.
So kind of similar families. Our boys are 8 and 12, so kind of similar families and experiences going on the Disney Magic this year. And before we get into the show, I want to extend all of us here in America our apologies to England and the World Cup appearance this year. It's so close, but again, just a little bit short.
Thank you, but I think generally we're all pretty fine with it. Semi-finals for the first time in 28 years was a good result.
Yeah, it was fun to watch, and John and I were kind of emailing back and forth. Our neighbor's mom is from England, and so they had big parties during each one of the matches, so it was kind of fun to go over and experience it with them. And boy, what a couple heartbreakers there, or almost heartbreakers. They came back and won, and then just in the end fell just a little bit short, but that was better than the U.S. did, so we didn't even show up.
Just exactly. To remind me, did you qualify?
No, we were.
Oh dear.
They were. I think they were all on the beach. Thinking about maybe 2022, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, that was kind of fun. Had the World Cup started when it hadn't started when you guys were on your cruise, had it?
No, couple of weeks later, I think.
Yeah, it was going kind of full swing the first and second rounds while we were on ours, and that was kind of fun to experience that. They had the games up every night up on the Funnel Vision, and then with the multinational cruise that Disney employs, there was several of the crew members that were from the different countries that were playing, so that kind of added just a little buzz to the cruise for us as well. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, we were having some chat with the head, not the head server, the main guy in the dining rooms. This time there was a guy called Luis. Louis, spelled Luis, and he was kind of mixed nationality. He was Portuguese, but I think he was born in France and he lived in Hungary.
Oh my gosh!
So we were trying to figure out who he was going to be supporting, but he was adamant that basically he was Portuguese and he was supporting Portugal, whereas actually he'd be much more sensible to say I'm French and I'm supporting France. So he backed the wrong horse, I think.
Maybe he jumped ship halfway in between, and after Portugal bowed out, he might have jumped back onto the France bandwagon. Yeah. So anyway,
I think he may have done that.
Well, cool. Let's jump into our cruises tonight. You guys did the 7-night cruise that departed when?
So we departed on the 26th of May, leaving out of Barcelona in Spain. And we had 3 stops in Italy, which were Naples, Civitavecchia, and Livorno. And then 1 stop in the south of France in Cannes. And I think, so your cruise had a slightly different itinerary, didn't it? Do you want to kind of go back and forth and just compare that to your itinerary?
Yeah, and so you guys did the regular round trip out of Barcelona, and we did one of the one-offs that it seems, looking at 2019, they only do that round trip twice. I think they've really changed it up in 2019.
Yeah,
and so we did the one-way from Rome, Civitavecchia, to Barcelona with stops at Naples once again, and then we went to Livorno, Genoa, Cannes, and then Marseille. And the difference between ours, other than it being a one-way between Rome and Barcelona, is we only had 1 sea day, where you guys had the 2.
Yeah, we had the standard one sea day at the beginning and then 1 sea day right at the end before arriving back in Barcelona.
Okay, perfect. Well, we kind of talked about it to try and do a show between the two of us with everything included would be pretty long. So what I've decided is we're going to break. Anawake and I are going to do a show that's going to air before this one, just kind of talking about our time in Rome. So for us, our family, we went to Rome, spent 3 full days there, the cruise, and then we went over to Germany for 2 days, and we've kind of done that one as a separate one. So instead of talking about our experiences beforehand, that'll be a separate one. But we can start off with yours, John, and you guys had a pretty cool experience being able to go to Barcelona for a couple days.
Yeah, that's right. We did. So Barcelona, a cruise out of Barcelona, I guess for English people is pretty easy. It's a 2-hour flight from the UK down to Barcelona. So we flew out to Spain on the day prior to the cruise departing. And we stayed in an apartment hotel right next to Antonio Gaudi's famous Basilica de la Sagrada Familia. And we were a bit nervous about that, really. An apartment hotel, kind of not quite in the city centre. How would that be? But I have to say it worked out really well for us. It probably took about 45 minutes in a cab to get from the airport down to the hotel. But it was a Friday afternoon, so there was lots of traffic, lots of people commuting away from work. So 45 minutes, arrived at the apartment, really clean, well presented. It had 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a living room. So lots and lots of space for pretty much the same price as a medium quality city centre hotel room might cost you. I think we paid around $225 for the one night. So major European capital city, we thought that was pretty good. And it was literally a 5-minute walk down to the Sagrada Familia. So actually very, very convenient. We'd booked tickets online to visit the Sagrada Familia on the Friday afternoon. And how that works is you get a 15-minute time slot when you have to arrive. And it was really busy. There were lots and lots of people kind of milling around outside. So I'm sure booking online in advance is absolutely the way to go if you don't want to queue for probably hours, to be honest. So we turned up just at the start of our 15-minute time slot, showed our tickets, and it was very efficient. We were inside within 5 minutes, I guess. And what an experience. It was fantastic. The church is beautiful from the outside, but equally spectacular inside. Lots of different colours in the windows. It's kind of themed, so there's different colours on one side to another, yellows and reds on one side, greens and blues on the other. And just a beautiful place and incredibly tranquil. There were maybe 1,000 people inside the building at the same time as us, but it was so quiet. There could have been 10, there could have been 20. It was really, really tranquil. So if you're visiting Barcelona, I would say a must-visit place. And that was the main thing we did, because we were only in Barcelona for that one afternoon.
Is that still a working church then too, or I suppose they have services?
Yeah, they absolutely have services. So it's a very strange place in a way, because as you know, lots of people will know, and we talked about this in the pre-show. It's unfinished, and in fact, the guy you had on who went on the Mediterranean cruise in 2017 on his honeymoon, he talked about this as well, didn't he? Mm-hmm. Gaudi started it 100 years ago. And it wasn't finished in his lifetime, and it still isn't finished. And they still don't think it's going to be finished for maybe another 7 years. But our taxi driver was saying that date when it's going to be finished just changes all the time, because it's being paid for by the money they get from tourists, apparently. So they kind of keep wanting to spin the story out as long as they can, so the tourists keep coming. He was kind of pretty cynical about the whole thing, actually. But it is beautiful. But there are bits inside where they ask you to if you want to take photos, to be seated rather than just to walk around. So there are bits where they try and keep it, I suppose, even more respectful, I suppose.
Amazing time there in Barcelona. Was it pretty busy that day? Getting around to?
Yeah, it was busy. It was very busy round the Sagrada Familia, but it's like most places. As soon as you walk off down the back streets, if you walk for 2 minutes away from the main tourist attractions, then there aren't many people. So we had a walk around, just found some local parks, and the kids played on the play equipment in the local parks, and we did a bit of exploring. And as soon as you get away from the main bits, it's just the locals.
Well, perfect. Yeah, it's kind of nice to see that part of a city too, besides just the, I hate to say touristy, but, the busy parts. It's kind of nice to kind of see how the regulars the people
we like
there. Yeah.
We always like to do that if we can.
Yeah. Well, great. So the next day is Saturday. You guys start your cruise out of Barcelona. Let's talk about getting down to the port and getting on the ship.
Well, I guess the first thing to say is Barcelona traffic on a Saturday morning is much better than on a Friday afternoon. And actually, we'd arranged with the taxi driver who picked us up from the airport on the Friday to take us into Barcelona. We'd arranged with him to come and pick us up on the Saturday morning as well. So that worked out really well. We had his number and we texted and stuff, and he turned up very efficiently, and he took us down to the port, maybe 20-minute drive, and I think it cost us $30, including a tip. So really simple. We had an 11:30 port arrival time. I think we've talked in previous shows, just like you guys, we like to arrive early, get in, try and get on the ship as early as we can. So we probably arrived about 11:15, and I was really impressed with the port of Barcelona. There was a big check-in area. It's kind of just a big warehouse like it is in most places, but it was well laid out, big check-in area. As we were relatively early, there weren't really any lines, so it took probably no more than 5 minutes to get checked in. Big waiting area, lots of seats available, so we were able to just sit down, relax, and wait for boarding to start. So that was good. We were in group 6 for boarding, and we were on the ship at exactly midday, so 45 minutes after arriving at the port, we were back on the Magic. So I think that's pretty good. I think that's really good. And it was nice in that it was set up so that you did enter the ship at the Deck 3 atrium, whereas when we boarded in Copenhagen last year, it wasn't like that at all. I think we boarded on Deck 1 at kind of, at one end of the ship. So we boarded on Deck 3 atrium, so that whole welcome to the Towler family announcement that they do when you go in through that main entrance, we had all of that. We had the applause from the staff that were there, which was nice. We knew it was happening, but it was still fun. And then we headed up to Cabanas for some lunch. So a really easy, efficient, great start to the cruise.
Perfect. So I think I read somewhere that Barcelona has a new port, or was that building fairly new that you guys went through? Did you know?
I don't know. I'm not sure it was that new. Civitavecchia has a new port where you guys got on. I didn't get a sense that it was that new in Barcelona, but I might be wrong about that. I don't really know.
It might be a different portion of it, I guess. I thought I saw that just recently, but yeah. So for us out of Rome, we kind of did the same thing. We it's about a 90-minute drive from downtown Rome where we were staying to get to the port, and rather than take the train back to the airport and take Disney transportation, we just arranged for a private car that picked us up at our hotel, which was nice, and took us straight to the port, and that was quite a bit cheaper than going back to the hotel and using Disney's transportation. We got there kind of just like you guys did, just about 11 or so. It's a brand new facility. Matter of fact, I think we were the second sailing that they've had out of it. Disney's first sailing, but the actual second sailing. So it was a beautiful new building, and same experience. Not a lot of lines. And I've been kind of thinking about it. I listened to, and I haven't been there yet, and either of you, I guess, but we're going to find out. Both of us are going to find out here next year. Port Canaveral, where you hear it's so busy. People, kind of. And I think the difference is, being in Barcelona, being in Rome, and then even Christy, when we talked about her Seattle cruise, there's so much stuff to do. People are visiting those cities themselves that I think that kind of disperses the crowd a little bit, so that you don't have that rush of people early on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that does make sense.
Because I know we met a family through a tour before we got on the ship in Rome, and they were spending the majority of the day, and I think they got onto the ship just about 4, like right before the sailing. So
wow.
They had quite a few things planned. So I think that kind of disperses the crowds when you get to some of these other different sailings besides the ones out of Port Canaveral.
Yeah, I think it kind of felt like, and we were watching other people come in, it kind of felt like just before we were boarding, just before 12 o'clock, it was getting busier. But obviously, as soon as boarding starts, then people are moving through. People who were sitting in the waiting area are moving out onto the ship. So I think Disney had it really well organised in Barcelona. The flow kind of worked. People were coming in, but people were moving out. So I was very impressed.
Yeah, same with Civitavecchia. It was super easy, pretty quick. They had a little cafe down in the actual building itself. So if you for some reason you showed up and wanted to eat before you got on and started eating at Cabanas,
right?
Okay. People actually were, but you had that opportunity as well. Well, cool. So let's talk about your guys' stateroom. What did you guys do for a stateroom again, John?
Well, I think we've turned into creatures of habit. So we were, not surprisingly, again in a deluxe family ocean view stateroom with veranda on deck 8. And the cabin was great, no problems at all. Our stateroom host did a really good job of looking after us throughout the week. I do have one complaint this year, though, also one observation that was different to previous years. This was our third cruise on the Magic. We've always stayed on deck 8. And for anybody who knows the Magic, deck 8 is below Deck 9, obviously. And Deck 9 has cabanas, it has the pools. So Deck 9 is a public space. It's not a deck that has cabins on it. But even though we've been on Deck 8 with public space above, we've never noticed any noise at all previously. But this year it was different. Every night at around 4 or 5 in the morning, there was some loud noise, and I never did figure out quite what it was. It sounded like they either had some sort of machine cleaning the deck, or they were replenishing the stocks somewhere, so they were rolling some kind of cart around. And it went on for 5-10 minutes, but it was every night, and it woke me up every single night. So that kind of turned out to be a little bit irritating, actually.
That is kind of annoying. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys were in the exact same room as you were in Norway, right?
Yeah, correct. Okay. Exactly the same room. I'd never heard that before, so I don't know whether Disney are doing something different. But it wasn't ideal. It wasn't a big thing, but it woke me up every night.
Well, that's not good. But I do apologize for that. And although I guess there's nothing I could do about it.
No, unless you've suddenly become a Disney employee, I don't think we can claim it's your fault.
Well, we're kind of becoming creatures of habit too, and our go-to deck is becoming Deck 6. So we didn't have the deluxe. We just had the family ocean view stateroom with veranda, which we really appreciated having the veranda on this cruise. Were you guys outside very much?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time outside this year because it was the first cruise we'd been on where it was consistently warm every day. So, yeah.
Good point there. Well, I think the waters of the Mediterranean, I don't know what it is, but I think they're just absolutely beautiful. So, we spent a lot of time with the doors open, looking out as we were cruising along when we were in our cabin. So we really appreciated having that. But we've kind of become creatures of habit with Deck 6. It's quick to get down to the kids club for Alex, our little one. And then we're usually in the middle, and so you can get down to the dinners and everything else pretty easily. And we don't mind taking the stairs to get up to Deck 9. So that's kind of becoming our go-to deck, I guess. So yeah, I think
if we were to book another cruise on the Magic, we would seriously consider not being on Deck 8 next time. Actually,
okay. Well, good to know. Well, let's talk about dinner then. How was your dining experience? What was your rotation? And then I know we both got to experience Rapunzel's Royal Table, so I think we got some stuff to talk about that.
We did. We both had a whole new restaurant to try out. So this year for us, our rotation started with Animator's Palette. So we didn't get to experience Rapunzel's Royal Table until the second night. And I had mixed views on it. And I'll try and explain why I had those mixed views. And I talked to some other people who weren't impressed at all, actually. So clearly what Disney are trying to do, I think, is to bring a show experience into that dining experience. So to have it as kind of a mini show during your meal. And I think I would score them partial success only. And I think they're always going to struggle with it because the basic problem is that the dining room is pretty big. I don't know how many people are in the dining room at any given time, but 300 and something, I guess, in each dining room, in each sitting. And there are pillars, obviously, in each of in that dining room. So we were really lucky because we were seated very close to the stage area. So we were right by where the action was all happening. But I was watching people at other tables who were around the edges of the room. And when the singing, dancing bits were on, lots of those guys around the edge were too far away. And they were absolutely not engaging with the singing and the dancing that was happening in the middle. So I think it worked if you were in a lucky place. But if you were around the edges, it was much more hard to kind of figure out what was going on. And even though Rapunzel and the thugs, they did circulate around the tables and they did visit everybody, if you hadn't really been engaged with the storyline to that point, you were a bit like, what's going on here? Rapunzel's kind of asking me if I'm enjoying the party. Well, what party? I haven't really understood what's happening. So I'm not sure the show idea really worked for the majority of people that were in the room. And it definitely, maybe by coincidence, but it definitely affected on the first night, in particular, the service. I don't know whether it's because they were trying to wait for bits of the show to finish before they served food, but we definitely had the worst food and service experience of the week that night. And it was also absolutely packed solid. I think pretty much everybody who could be in the dining room was in the dining room, I guess, because they wanted to experience something new. So the food that night wasn't great. It was a bit cold by the time it arrived. So I had very, very much mixed views about Rapunzel's royal table. Having said all that, barring that one night, we felt that the food quality this time overall was absolutely excellent. We had some of the best meals we've ever had on a Disney ship. And if you were ask the kids, some of the best meals probably they've ever had anywhere. I had some great steak, some excellent fish, and we really enjoyed our dining experience overall this year. So that's my thoughts on Rapunzel's royal table. How about you?
I really like the dining room itself. I mean, the theming is amazing. Having gone on the Wonder the month before and seeing Tiana's place, I'm going to give Tiana's place a nod above Rapunzel's. Tiana's is kind of an experience. It is kind of like what you're saying, where they're trying to put on a show, but it's a much simpler show. It's kind of her welcoming you to her dining room, and then they sing, and it's a lot of music while you're eating, and they play for the first part, and then it kind of quiets down, and they go and visit the tables so that you can have that conversation, because that's the other part of this too that makes it tough, is because this show is going on, it's a tough night to talk to those around you as well. So
definitely.
There's a bunch of different angles to it. Talking to our servers, they weren't happy with Rapunzel's table, to be honest, because the wait stations, they couldn't put them in the middle because it would be other things that would block the show, like you said. And so the drink stations that they have and where they bring the food to are all very far away from the tables. And that was part of the problem that our wait staff told us about the restaurant, because it's harder for them to get around to the tables as quickly. So I think it's a work in progress for them. Maybe they're gonna maybe have to figure out. And I'm with you. You know, there's a story to it, but we didn't follow it at all. We got a kick out of the first night when the thugs came. My kids, my youngest is a Fortnite dancer. For those of you who know Fortnite. Is that big over there?
Yeah. Yes, massive.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so he got the big thug, who was awesome, by the way. And I've got a video of it. I need to somehow figure out a way to upload it, because it is hilarious. He gets the thug trying to do a Fortnite dance with him. And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the interaction was fun. I think the theming overall is fun, but the show is tough to follow. I think they need to work on it.
Yeah, I think on the second time we were there, they made the wait staff parade through the restaurant carrying lanterns. You remember that?
Yes.
And I was a bit like, I don't really get that. What's the point of that? There's nothing interesting about that. It's just the wait staff parading with lanterns.
Yeah.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, I think they really need to work on it in many different ways. That being said, like I said, I like the idea of it, and I think Tiana's place pulls it off because it's fun music. It's a simple story. It's not so involved, and I think Rapunzel is kind of a mess as far as the show goes. But that's just our opinions, right?
Yeah, we're only a couple of months in. That's the reality. And Disney is smart. You know, they listen to they take a lot of customer feedback, and I'm sure they'll listen to that customer feedback and improve the bits where people are saying didn't quite work for us.
But our food quality was awesome. First night's always kind of a little bit of a mess. I'm starting to see that as a trend generally. We were in Rapunzel's table the first night, so that was first night of the cruise, getting to know you. Yeah, the food wasn't the greatest that first night, but the rest of the time, yeah, we really enjoyed all the food that we had on the ship, from cabanas to just about every place else. So
okay, well, I was just going to add one more thing. So sure. We booked a character breakfast again on the morning of our first sea day. So that was really good fun. And for anyone who doesn't know, that's a no-cost option, so it's a free option. But you do need to book a slot on the website, just like you would for any other onboard experience. And I heard a couple of people on the cruise saying they would have liked to have done it, but they couldn't get a slot. So I think it does sell out pretty early. So if that's something that people do want to do, you might want to get on it as soon as your online check-in access opens up. So we've done that a couple of times. We've had really good fun with it on both occasions. And we did something slightly different this time. On our previous cruises, if we've been on the ship at lunchtime, we've always just gone to cabanas and never really kind of thought about doing anything else. But this time we did make use of some of the snack outlets around the pool, which just changed it up a bit for us. And I have to say, James in particular, big fan of the pizzas, liked that a lot. So we managed to give ourselves a bit more variety this time than we had done previously.
Did you try the shawarma?
No, I don't think we did. We found the ice cream machine for the first time in 3 years. It was the first time it had been hot enough to want ice cream, I guess. But we did find the ice cream machine, and we thought that was particularly good.
Oh, man. I forgot about that. Yeah. The ice cream is amazing. Yeah, the shawarma is really good, too. And, Alex, our youngest, loves the pizza on board at Pinocchio, so 2 thumbs up on that. Well, good. So you guys start off with a sea day. We had a sea day on our second day. We had a port first. What did you guys do on your sea days? How did you spend your time?
Well, as you know, Steve, and as people who've listened to me talk about our cruises previously will know, we're the type of family who always get involved in what's going on the ship. We're always very, very busy. So this year, Sam, who's our 12-year-old, decided that he would try out Edge for the first time. So moving away from Oceaneers Lab and Oceaneers Club. So Edge is the kids club for 11 to 14-year-olds. And we went with him on the afternoon of embarkation day to an open house session. Because people, you've said it in a number of your shows, the advice is always try and turn up to those older kids clubs on the first day, because you kind of meet people and you get to know people and you can make friends, I suppose. So we went to that first open house session with Sam because he was a bit nervous about it, I guess, just to check it out. And I wasn't super impressed with it actually as a space. It's kind of small. There's lots of Xbox Wi-Fi type tech stuff around. There were some chess sets, but not much more beyond that. Some tables where you could sit and chat. So I didn't think it was great. But then again, I'm not between 11 and 14. Sam liked it. He felt comfortable there. He only went back a couple of times during the cruise because I guess, as we'll talk about later, it's a busy cruise. But he definitely appreciated being treated more as a young adult this time. And it absolutely turned out to be a confidence-building experience for him. So that worked well. I think he probably made friends with the staff, the counsellors in the club, more than he made friends with other children. But that's fine. It worked for him. So that was good. And as a family, we took part in the usual amount of game shows and quizzes that we always do. We failed to win. So you think, your family, we failed to win it for the 3rd year running. Even though we knew what half of the questions were going to be in advance, we still didn't win. And we also got our worst ever score of 4 out of 25. 4 out of 25 on some random Disney quiz or other that we had no idea.
Oh, man.
But we did lots and lots of that stuff. There was a new game show this year called Inside Out, which was quite good fun. So Disney seemed to be trying to refresh it. I think they do need to do a bit more work. Some of the quizzes felt a bit out of date. There were a couple of quizzes where the entertainment staff were having to say this question was written 3 or 4 years ago. So there was a question about which of the 10 most popular ports that Disney sail out of, and Vancouver wasn't one of them. And that was well, all of the Alaska cruises go out of Vancouver, so how can that not be one of them? And the answer was because previously they went out of, I don't know, Los Angeles, was it maybe? I think LA was one of them. So I think they just need to try and make sure they're keeping things up to date, because it's a bit embarrassing for them if it's not. It's such a simple thing to sort out. But there's loads of stuff going on, and we got very much involved. And I think we said the weather was pretty good throughout the cruise, so Sam did spend some time in the pool. We didn't quite manage to get him on the aquadunk, but he did have lots of fun bobbing around in the pool with another 100 kids, I guess.
The kid soup that is the pool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That.
Anything else that you guys did?
Well, you asked me in the pre-show whether we might take in a movie this time, and I said it was very unlikely because we'd be too busy doing other stuff. But guess what? We actually did.
No way.
Yep, we actually did. So Solo, I didn't realise, but Solo, a Star Wars story, was literally just coming out the day before we got on the ship, I guess. So Sam and I went to the early showing on our final sea day, which was great. James went off to the kids club, and actually Caroline did the Art of the Theme Show tour, which you also did quite recently and talked about in a show in a previous episode. And you loved it, I think. She loved it. She thought it was fantastic.
Well, I'm gonna have to bring her on the show because I missed it this time. and I really wanted to hear what they had to say about the Magic. So I'm glad she liked it.
Oh yeah, because you did it on the Wonder, didn't you?
Yeah. So the theming's different on the Magic. I'd love to hear what they say about the theming on the Magic. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I can't. Yeah, you'd have to talk to her. There was something about Cabanas is themed on Australia. For some reason I don't really understand, but I can't remember the rest of it.
Yeah, it is. Actually, Andrew told us, and they told them that during one of the quiz competitions that they had at the Edge when he was there. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Mm-hmm. So she did that, and then on the final sea day, this is just a kind of an aside, I suppose. We had one of the highlights of the whole cruise. Caroline and I were sitting out on the veranda, just relaxing last sea day, when Caroline jumped up and shouted, "Look, dolphins!" And there were maybe 7 or 8 dolphins just swimming and jumping alongside the ship right below us, immediately below our balcony. So the kids rushed out from the cabin, and we just stood there watching the dolphins for a few minutes until they gradually drifted off towards the stern of the ship. So that was brilliant, completely unexpected treat for our final day. Loved that. We thought we were special, but I think I read you saw dolphins as well.
I mean, in all honesty, it was the last day for us too. Alex had gone to the kids club, and Andrew, which I'll talk about here just real quick when we get to his experience in the Edge, was waiting for some friends to go meet them. And so we had dinner. We walked up to the very front of the ship at the very top there up on deck 10. And we're kind of watching the sun, kind of slowly working its way towards the horizon. And all of a sudden, there was probably about 3 or 4 dolphins that were just jumping back and forth across the front of the ship as the ship was going through the water. And we just watched them we only saw them for maybe about a minute or so, just jumping back and forth. But it was amazing. That was so cool. It was kind of the same thing. It was weird that it was the last day for us as it was for you.
Fantastic, though. Well, we told our guy, the dolphins we saw, that they had to come back and see you guys, so that must have been it.
That must have been it. Perfect.
Okay, so what else did you guys get up to on your free time then?
Okay, well, I have to admit that I got a big smile on my face that I am actually finally wearing a winner medallion from our trivia contest that Anawik and I actually stumbled into and won. So we finally won something.
Congratulations. Disney trivia or general trivia?
It was general trivia, and it was, I think we got 12 out of 20. So there was only 3 other couples playing, so it was maybe we had a little bit better odds, but it was general trivia, so we were pretty excited. I got a picture of her with the cast, the person that was doing the quiz afterwards, and we're gonna hang that up somewhere. It was kind of funny.
Fantastic! No, I love that. That's great.
But we kind of did the same kind of things. We only had the one sea day, so we kind of spent it doing the things that we like to do. I got up early. I was having a hard time sleeping for some reason, and which normally I don't. But for anybody interested in the gym opens at 6, so I was up early at the gym working out, and then and so let's jump into the kids club a little bit. So we got kind of lucky this time. Andrew, we met a family actually on a tour of the Colosseum when we were in Rome, and they had a son that was the same age as Andrew, and they kind of hit it off during that tour. So they found each other once we got on the ship, and I think this is kind of cool. We haven't really talked about the app that you can download that you can chat through back and forth, so you can kind of keep track of each other. Well, not only can you you can add people, you can create a group and then add people to that group. And so he and Ben, the other kid, created a group, and they ended up meeting about five other kids. So they had about 5 kids in their chat group, and so. For him, it was a pretty good cruise in the sense that we would go out and do stuff during the day. We'd come back, we'd eat. Unfortunately, most of the other kids had the later dinner, but they'd kind of all get in touch and go, okay, let's meet up at the Edge at 10. And so that's what after they got done with the later dinner. And so then he'd end up there, and then they would end up going all over the ship, playing foosball up front, playing ping pong, and just kind of running all over the ship. They went to see movies each night, and I always wondered how it was going to go as far as this trip goes, as we've kind of alluded to, these Mediterranean cruises. It's a busy 7 days, and you're busy all day long with the tours on the port days, but it seemed that we would actually catch our second wind, and he was able to do it, and we kind of let him have a little bit of freedom. He'd be back. We told him he had to be back by midnight every night, and as long as he let us know where he was, and so it was a big confidence builder for him too. So
well, that's perfect, isn't it? I'm so glad that worked out.
Yeah. So for him, it was a really good good experience. Alex kind of blossomed with he was excited about doing Super Sloppy Science and all that kind of stuff. So he used the app to kind of track down what he wanted to do. And after dinner, he'd usually make his way down there to take part in whatever was going on down at the kids club. And then Anawake and I would just kind of relax in the evenings as well. But the Sea Day, so we spent some time on the Aquadunk. That's kind of that's our family favorite. We love going down that. Have you done that yet?
No, still not.
Still not?
No.
So we did that. We did some trivia, and then we did take in some of the adult shows afterwards as well. So that was kind of how we filled up our free time on the Sea Day, and then afterwards when we got back from the ports. So there we are. We're moving on into the evening shows, entertainment. I guess this cruise is a little bit different in the sense that they do not have a different show every night. And he had some thoughts about that.
Yeah, I think there's a few things to discuss probably about shows and entertainment. So I'll start with, on our 2 previous cruises, the first night show has been Walt Disney The Dream Goes On, which on previous shows I've been pretty critical of. I thought it was very tired. I didn't think it was very relevant to kids. I didn't think it engaged kids. Well, Disney appear to have come to the same conclusion, because the first night show this year was called Be Our Guest. And I think that's something they do on some of the other ships as well, if I've understood correctly. And the idea appeared to be to give us a taster for some of the entertainment that we would be seeing on subsequent nights on the cruise. The cruise director compared it on that first night throughout the evening, and it gave us lots of general information about the cruise in between introducing the various elements. So the show guys did a 5-minute routine from each of Twice Charmed, Tangled, and Disney Dreams. And then there was a short set from the percussion group Junk, who were on the boat. And then there was something from a comedy juggler guy. So it was kind of 5 minutes, bits and pieces, interspersed with the cruise director just chatting about the cruise and the places we were going to go and the different nationalities of people on the ship, that sort of stuff. And I thought it worked really well as a concept. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a nice introduction to the cruise. It got you excited about the shows. It got you excited about the other entertainers that were on board. And it was actually not very long. It took about 45 minutes, which I think for the first night of the cruise, when people are tired and want to maybe go and explore around the ship a bit, I thought it was a smart move. So for me, big thumbs up for that change this year. I really liked it. Then, you mentioned it, the biggest change of all, repeated shows. So for our cruise, both Tangled and Disney Dreams were repeated on subsequent nights. So both of those shows played twice. So whereas on previous years, if you wanted to see everything that was on, you had to go to the theatre every single night. This year, you could have 2 nights off. And I've asked lots of people what they thought about it. I asked quite a lot of people on the ship, and then I did a bit of a poll on our Facebook group afterwards to see what people thought. And the views were mixed. There were some very negative views, people who felt that they hadn't had value for money. But largely, people were supportive. So largely, people thought it actually worked for this cruise. But there were some who thought it was cost-cutting, that Disney were cost-cutting and they felt short-changed. My view is actually with the majority. I think for this particular cruise, it worked quite well. It took the pressure off a little bit, and it gave you an opportunity to relax a bit more, particularly after the days when we'd done full day, tiring, hot excursions, of which there were several days like that. So I concluded that for this particular cruise, it worked. I'm not sure I'd have felt the same if it had been on a cruise with more sea days or a cruise with maybe shorter excursions. But for us, I think it worked. I did see that the 2 cruises after ours had 3 repeated shows, and I think for me that would have felt too much, but I think 2 worked. So how many repeated shows did you guys have? What do you think about it?
I'm kind of in your camp with I like it. I'm with you. Like if you're on a Caribbean cruise, multiple sea days, I'm not sure I'd like it. I'd want to see something, have that headline every night. For us, we had 3 repeated shows, Twice Charmed, Tangled, Disney Dreams, and then the only original performer was Hector's Magic, which we've seen before. Matter of fact, we've seen all of those shows before. So, that's part of it too. They don't change up the shows as much. So I know that's been kind of a complaint. But to be honest, because of the long days, I thought it was nice to be able to we really wanted to see Tangled again, and Monday for us was a really busy day, and Tuesday was a better day for us to see it. So I liked that we had that opportunity to not have to fit it into a night that we really didn't want to go and see it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. So I guess Disney just need to be careful with it, really.
Right.
It does appear to work and popular, but only in the right setting.
And then I believe you guys had a ventriloquist on board. He just performed down in Fathoms and did both a family show and an adult show down there. So there was an opportunity to see some other groups other than what they had in the main theaters, but it was down in Fathoms.
Yeah, okay. So I'm not sure that bit quite worked out as Disney would hope. So as you say, the other entertainers were mostly in Fathoms, sometimes doing shows during the day, but actually sometimes up in exactly the same slot as the main theatre show. So, in direct competition with that main theatre show, and also sometimes doing late night adult shows as we would expect. So we did manage to see Junk, the percussion guys in Fathoms. They were really good. There was a ventriloquist, as you say, who was fantastic. He was utterly hilarious. He was
amazing.
He was fantastic. We went to see him twice, and Caroline was crying. She was laughing so much. It was fantastic. But on one of the two occasions we saw him, he was up against the main theatre show, and Fathoms was not very full at all, which was I think it was a shame. He was really funny. Most entertainers, they need a crowd, don't they? They need to get a buzz going in the room. And it's hard to get a buzz going when you're playing to an audience of 20, 30 people. And on that particular night, there were probably only 20 or 30 of us in Fathoms. So I'm not sure that putting good entertainers up against a main show worked very well. So I think Disney might need to have a bit of a think about that, and then whether that's a format that they can improve somehow.
I want to go back on one other thing, kind of with the idea of having multiple shows kind of gives you flexibility. This is a long cruise as far as your long, busy days. You don't have the breaks that you may have on some of the other sailings that they have. But the other thing I want to throw out that we really didn't talk about, we had the early dining. Did you guys have early dining as well?
Yeah, early dining, yeah.
And our servers bent over backwards, and they were like, and matter of fact, not just our servers, but the head waiter came over several times and said, "Hey, I know tomorrow's going to be a long day. Hey, kids, get some sleep tonight so that you guys are going to be in a happy mood with your folks when you go do your tours. And we want you to dine with us. We will be open for you. When you guys get back, we will get you in there." So I thought that was kind of a nice thing, too, in the sense that if you wanted to come back, and we did eat at the main dining every night except for once, they really bent over backwards to try to accommodate you if you got back a little bit later. Because I think our seating was at 6:15, and they were like, get here by 7 and we'll get you fed. So
yeah, we had the same experience. We were 20, 30 minutes late one day, and we kind of warned them that we might be.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a problem at all. And it's funny you should mention the head waiter. You've talked about it a bit in a couple of previous shows, how the head waiter, on our Norway cruise in 2016, we didn't really see the head waiter at all. He was a big, tall Indian guy, I think. Mm-hmm. And he kind of appeared a couple of times, but not a guy you built a relationship up with at all. But you said on a couple of your recent cruises, you've seen much more of the head waiter and you've been able to engage with him. That was our experience this time. So the French-Portuguese guy, Louis, he was at our table every single night, chatting to us for 5 or 10, 5 minutes probably every night. The kids got to know him a bit. He got to know us. So I don't know whether that's a conscious thing that Disney are doing to try and get those head waiters around the tables a bit more. But I really appreciated that. I really liked it.
Yeah, same here. And I appreciate the fact that they realize what their guests are going through as far as what they're trying to experience on a cruise like this, and they're bending over backwards as much as they can to try and make accommodations for you. So I thought that was good.
Yeah.
And worth pointing out, I guess. So, well, cool. So I think we've talked about everything on the ship. Should we move into the ports?
Sure, let's do it.
Well, that's going to wrap up part 2 of our trip report, focusing on our onboard experiences on the Disney Magic. In part 3, John's going to come back, and we are going to focus on our shore excursions that each of our families took during our different cruises this past summer. Well, if you've been enjoying our podcast and you know others who might enjoy it, we sure would appreciate it if you would pass it on to them. that helps us get the word out in the Disney community and the cruising community in general about our show and helps us grow it. Also, if you have time, we sure would appreciate it if you go over to iTunes and rate the show as well. And between now and our next show, if you'd like to get a hold of either Christy or I, you can reach me on Facebook at DCL Podcast and also on Twitter, DCL Podcast. You can always reach Christy at Pack Your Pixie Dust on Facebook and Pack YR Pixie Dust on Twitter as well. And between now and our next show, if you are heading out on your next vacation, all of us here at the DCL Podcast would like to wish you fair winds and safe travels as you head out on your next adventure. Once again, thanks for coming back and taking a listen, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.